Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to change the UI PCB board on the Teenage Engineering OP-1. The reason I'm changing out this board is because my volume knob stopped working. I believe this was due to me dropping it, but essentially I couldn't turn the volume up or down. It was fixed at one point. And I looked on some forums to figure out how to do this, and fortunately iFixit had a really great tutorial, and they have a lot of great tutorials. This video is not sponsored by them. I just bought parts from them. And so I'm going to walk you through how to do this. So this video is fairly long. I'll probably fast forward through some of the boring bits. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. And as you can see, I've actually started here to take off the keys, and you'll want to just use a guitar pick, any kind of like hard plastic to lift these up. And they're not really that difficult to lift up, and it almost feels like you're breaking it when you lift up, but that's really not the case. Just kind of dig under a little bit and give it like a little bit of pressure, and it'll eventually just pop off. You can see I just did one of the keys there, and it's got two parts to it. It has the plastic bit, which locks into the little plastic key bit. And forgive me, my vernacular is not very good with the parts here. And then it's got the metal, these metal prongs that act as sort of the hinge for the key to give it that up and down pressing momentum. So here I'm just continuing to pop these off. It's pretty straightforward. So I'm going to keep just removing these. And for reference, in order to know which ones to pop off, you can just go to the right there. You can see that these will fly across the room. So usually you can like cover your hand, one hand over it, and then use the other hand to pop it off. If you're afraid of one shooting across the room or losing it. But as I was saying, if you want to know which keys to lift up, you can go to iFixit. There goes another one. You can go to ifixit.com, and there's a great visual tutorial there if you don't want to listen to a long video like this. And it will show you exactly which keys you'll want to pop off, because underneath these keys, you're going to have small little Phillips head screws. And I probably should be more prepared for this video to tell you which size Phillips head you need. I'll probably post this in the description below after this video is finished. And so as you've popped all of these off, you'll then need to go through and pop off the actual mechanism that allows you to push the keys up and down. So here you can see I'm popping. These are really tricky as well. It also feels like you're going to break them, but don't be too concerned. You may break them, but you just try to have faith in the sturdiness of the plastic, and you'll find a good leverage point on the actual on the mechanisms itself, or typically like on the side. You can see here I'm holding my hand over it so it doesn't fly across the room, which is I found that was a decent technique. And see how I'm getting the guitar pick just under the plastic, and you'll kind of find the spot that you want to use to pop it off. So just lift it, keep finger over, hand over it, just to make sure it doesn't fly into oblivion behind your couch or wherever. Learn from my mistakes here. So here we go. I'm just lifting all of these off, and it's pretty cathartic. Getting into this little keyboard, and I enjoy tearing down things and seeing how they function. It's really cool to do. It's kind of brings you back into the days of when you would build things with Legos, or So here I'm pulling that one off. Pop this one off. So just again, it feels like you're gonna break it when you're popping it off, but just sort of have faith in the plastic. I mean, don't ham fist it, but You do need to give it like a little bit of that leverage, and you can use either key on either side to kind of give that leverage to the to the guitar pick, and you'll feel it. It'll just kind of sort of snap off, and it does almost feel like you're breaking it, which is a little weird, but once you get into the groove of it, you'll understand. And what you may notice here is actually there is no screw. I believe it was that key, the 1 key. There actually isn't a screw under there. I actually removed the wrong one, and later in this video you'll see that I actually remove. I believe it is the meter key to the left of the 1 key that you'll actually have to remove. Okay, now you want to get your mini screwdriver here. Find just any small Phillips head screwdriver will work fine. Again, I'll try to find which one, but it should be pretty straightforward if you have a little kit. And you'll just go through here and just undo each of these screws one by one. Something later that I will, because I didn't really prepare for this video, I just said, oh, it might be cool to like put this up on YouTube so somebody else could learn if they've had the same problem with their UI board, like if the volume knob doesn't work, or if any of the effects knobs or the other UI knobs don't work, then I thought maybe somebody could learn from this. And so I didn't really prepare for this, so please forgive me in advance if my terminology is not correct, or if I'm not explaining it well enough. But hopefully at the end of this video you'll see it successful. So hopefully just by watching this video you'll be able to learn from something here. Something else I did later on in the video is for these small bits I went and got some tweezers, which can also help if your fingers aren't small, or you're having a hard time getting the screws out. You can always just use some tweezers to pull these out. And I'm sure there's going to be somebody that's going to comment and say I'm doing something wrong, so please let me know, and I can put this in the disclaimer later on that I'm not doing something wrong. I'm not grounded, which is an obvious first thing. I'm not, the static charge, having like a band to ground yourself. I think that's a little overcautious in my opinion. I've done installing PCB boards and stuff as well, where I did use like a static band, but sometimes you just kind of have to risk it and just go with it. But again, you might not be that. You might be more risk averse and want to have and be grounded. So if you want to do that, just be sure to put a static band on and ground yourself so you don't cause any static electricity to your board, especially if you have carpet in your house, because I don't have any carpet. I have hardwood, and I think I'm barefoot in this video, so there shouldn't be any static charge that's going to happen. Okay, so almost at the end of taking all the screws out here. And I didn't directly center the OP-1 on this video on purpose, because I wanted you to see that I wanted you to see all of the keys that were being removed and all of the the little switches here. And here I'm taking off the UI knobs, so go ahead and take these off. So this was the bit that was giving me all the problems. This was, like I said, the volume, it would stay in one position, one fixed position. The knob would actually move, but the actual pot came dislodged from the PCB board. And previously I had actually taken this thing apart and tried to resolder it, but I think it's a little beyond my soldering capabilities. And I'm gonna I got a soldering kit for Christmas that I'm going to try and fix the pot on the old UI PCB board to see if I can fix it, and so that way I'll have a backup if for whatever reason my board messes up. Okay, here you can see that I had messed up, and I actually was trying to remove the keyboard and actually had the wrong key off, and so you'll see here, all right, there's the screw under here. Once I lift this up, you'll see that there's one less screw that's preventing the board from coming off. And the OP-1s are unbelievable little machines. Like I'm a musician, and you kind of go through dry spells as a musician where your creativity ebbs and flows, and I'd been kind of flirting with the idea of doing some electronic music, and I've played with DAW programs like Fruity Loops in the very beginning back in my college days to now I'm using Logic Pro, and I eventually want to get into doing some Ableton work. But it can be a little bit daunting trying to make music in a DAW because there's just so many options you can do. I'm removing the keyboard. But this device is just an unbelievable powerhouse of a machine, and it really, I think one of the founders had said that the simplicity and sort of the limitations is what's going to help your creativity, and I wholeheartedly fully believe that, because it's not like a normal DAW where everything is time-based. Like, this is a sequencer, but it takes a little bit getting used to. But man, once you get into it, it is just such a cool little machine, and it's probably one of my favorite instruments I've played in the last 5 to 10 years. And it does command a hefty price tag, but it is well worth it. And I'll also post a link to some of my songs that I've created on it, just to show you how powerful it is. And really, you can make full songs here. Okay, so here you can see that I've removed the keyboard completely. So and that's really straightforward. It's really not hard to remove that thing. And here you can see the guts of the Teenage Engineering OP-1. Once you've removed that, you can see that your warranty is void. Here is the AMOLED display, which is beautiful display. I mean, this thing is so ahead of its time. It released back in 2011. And you want to be really careful with ribbon cables. If you've never gotten into electronics, or this is your first time doing this, just be very, very careful with your ribbon cables. If you break a ribbon cable, it's really, really hard, close to impossible to repair them, and you're better off just buying a new ribbon cable. And so you don't want to create more problems than you started with by being ham-fisted. So be real careful. There's little flaps there that you're going to lift up. They're little black brackets on either end. Actually, this one is one solid black bracket. You just kind of lift that up, and if you can't get to it with your fingers, again, go back to the guitar pick and just sort of slightly lift it up. It's about a 2 to 3 millimeter little black board that lifts up, and it locks down the ribbon cable in place. And so here you can see I'm trying to disconnect the speaker, and it doesn't come out from the side. It actually comes out from on top, which I didn't realize at the time. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove the PCB board for the UI controls on the synth. And I think there are 5. There might be 6 screws on here, and they have little. They have these little O-rings as well that you'll want to make sure that you get those. Oh, there I was, if you want to see my face. For reference, for those watching, wondering what my light setup is, I think I'm using a newer NEEWER or NEWWER light that I got on Amazon. I think it's a ring light. It's not very expensive at all, but it's really great for doing these kind of videos where you're getting into it. And I think I'm giving at this point, this is when I realized that I was going to use some tweezers because it was getting a little bit hard to pull these O-rings out. Excuse me, not O-rings, washers. So there's a little bit of an awkward pause here. So now you just get to watch. Okay, so there we go. I got my tweezers. And this makes it much easier to pick out these washers. And if you've ever played the game Operation when you were a kid, where it's a little board and you've got you're trying to pull bones and pieces out of a human, and it buzzes when you if you touch metal to metal, it'll buzz on you, and the guy's nose will light red. That's kind of what it is when you work on electronics here. You're just using these little tweezers and you're just pulling it out. So it reminded me of playing the Operation game when I was a kid, which was quite a fun game. So here I'm almost on the last screw. And I didn't say this at the beginning, but I would say this is a very, the skill level for doing this is probably like a easy medium. I wouldn't quite say it's medium. It's definitely not hard. I think it's very straightforward. You're not doing any soldering. You're just removing screws. So yeah, I would say a novice could do this with no problems. You just need to just kind of take your time. You're not in a rush. Okay, and here you want to lift up the board. And you'll see that the speaker cable will also come off here. So the speaker cable lifts off from the top. It doesn't come out from the side. And here is my old board. And I will try to show you, I don't know if it's going to focus well enough here, but I'm going to try to show you where it came undone. So right there where I'm pointing, it came desoldered from the PCB board, that bit right there. You see there's like a little bit of a gap right there. That's where it came undone. And so it wasn't making a full connection. So the pot is there, it's still turning correctly, but it just, the electronic signal wasn't getting through because it wasn't properly soldered anymore. And like I said before, I tried to fix this myself, but I guess I'm a pretty novice electronic engineer, and so I didn't want to further mess it up and not be able to use my OP-1. And so what I did was I just lived with the volume the way it was. See how it came apart there? You can see it it moved. And so what I wanted to do is I bought this from iFixit, and I was going to replace this and then go back and try to retroactively try to fix the old one. So that way, even if I messed up when I was resoldering it, that I'd still have a functioning new board and I'd be able to still make music on my OP-1. This is the first time I've ever bought anything from iFixit. They have a really great site. They're all about your right to repair, which I firmly believe in. I don't think, as kind of a side note, I think we're always in this mindset of like, okay, it broke, let's just throw it in the trash bin and buy a new one from Amazon. And that's unfortunate in a couple ways. I think the first way is it's bad for the environment. And the second, I think, is, you're not actually learning anything. You're not getting into your device, and some people may not want to do that. They just want to, their things to work. But for people like myself who like to see how things work and want to just get into the weeds of things, it's really cool to just be able to go in and fix it yourself. And the right to repair is good. You really should be able to have full ownership of your devices and be able to repair them. And companies that don't support that, I think it's a little nefarious, because everybody should be able to repair the things they had, so they can last a long time and you can hand them down to your kids. So you see here, you see how it's connected on the correct board, and it came apart on the other one. So this is the correct board. This is a fresh, brand new UI PCB board. And so now we're just going to go in reverse. And so here I'm putting back the speaker connector onto the board. And again, it is a push down to get it on. It is not a slide in. You have to push down on it. Here I'm removing the ribbon cable. There we go. It just seats nicely in place here. So you'll want to just push this on top. It snaps into place real easy. Don't need to put too much pressure on it. You'll feel it go in. So here I'm just going to go in reverse. And feel free to double the speed or I guess you can only do double speed or 1.5 times speed on YouTube if you don't want to sit through all this. But maybe you just find my voice so cathartic that you want to keep listening. If that's the case, keep listening. So here, and I really enjoyed this repair. I thought it was, yeah, it was just a real easy repair. I wasn't pulling my hair out, wondering what to do next. Like I said before, iFixit already has a great like visual and written tutorial that they put together. But I just decided it would be nice to have a video because I couldn't find anybody that had done this work online, and so I wanted to share this with the world. Hopefully the device doesn't break again, but that was on me. I'm pretty sure I dropped it and it hit something to mess the volume knob. But they are very delicate machines, so do take care with them when you play them. Keep them out of reach of children, and get a good case for them as well. I have a analog case for it I got on Amazon that has been great to store it. So just putting all these back in. And here, what I'm doing here, these are the ribbon cables that go to, I believe these go to like the battery or the main motherboard. These are interesting. They have two little, I wasn't able to zoom in on this, but they have two little black levers on either side. And what's tricky here is they actually don't fully seat in when you, okay, actually, I'm going to do the AMOLED display first, and here I'm just cleaning it off with my shirt. Somebody's probably going to chime in and say that's wrong, whatever. And I'm cleaning that off, and then I'm just going to attach this on here. Be real careful with your ribbon cables. I can't stress that enough. You really don't want to mess up a ribbon cable. So put this, there's a little, I'd mentioned before, there's like this little black flap about a 3 millimeter like width and probably, I don't know, 10-15 millimeters across that lifts up. You'll want to push the gold pin connectors inside of here, and then you're going to push, see how with my left hand and my index finger, I'm pushing this little black flap down. And here, what I'm doing here is I'm showing you which is the correct way to put your, it's like, I guess like it's like a neoprene or some kind of material to prevent any electricity from grounding to the back of this display. So you'll want to put it shiny side up, rubber side down. Kind of like riding motorcycles, shiny side up, rubber side down. I'm using this as a reference, so this is the old PCB board, and that was rubber side down. So here you'll put rubber side down. Put that on here. Fits nicely in place. You can see, I'm cleaning it again. And again, once you put that ribbon cable in place, you just push down on the little black clasp, and it'll close on top of the on the ribbon cable, and it'll make the connection to the gold, the other gold pins. Here I'm just showing the warranty is now void now that I've opened it, which I've opened it before, so I've already voided my warranty. All right, so now we're going to put the keyboard back on. Oh, here, there is a little bevel here. I've taken it off camera, but I'm actually cleaning it. Now's a good time if you have a lot of dust, or maybe there's like a little bit of crumbs or hairs inside of your OP-1. Now's a good time to clean things out, unless you regularly take apart your OP-1. But yeah, just do like a little bit of cleaning here and there. It's good to do that. So that's what I'm doing, because I'm just cleaning this little bevel. It had a little bit of dirt inside of it. So I'm off camera cleaning that. And what you're going to do is it's like a little black bevel, and you'll want to push that in the top of the OP-1, and then you'll want to then seat the keyboard on top of the main unit once you've gotten that little black bevel in the top. And I'll demonstrate that in a second. Okay, so there's the, there's the ribbon cables that you're going to connect. This is a little tricky as well. You're going to have to really be pretty careful here. Okay, first we're going to seat it. So see how I'm putting the bevel in the top of the OP-1. And I think I might be trying to do the ribbon cables first. And this is where I figure something else out it's really hard to see. My camera angle is not showing it very well. But when you seat these ribbon cables in, you're going to have two black tabs on either side. And if you don't have the ribbon cable in and you push one of the black tabs down, you'll notice that it goes all the way in. But when you put the ribbon cable in, those two black tabs on either side of the ribbon cable connector are only going to go about halfway in. And that's because it's actually, you're seating the two gold pins, one from the gold pins from the ribbon cable and then from the actual, onto the actual ribbon cable board, connector board. And so those little black tabs on either side, they're not going to actually go all the way in. They're only going to go about maybe halfway, but just make sure that you get movement on both of those black tabs to get them to both go about halfway in, to make sure the ribbon cable is properly seated in place. And you can also, and to verify that, you can also do a slight tug on the ribbon cable just to make sure that it's actually firmly seated in place. And you don't need to tug hard on it, just a little gentle push just to make sure it feels seated. Because if you reassemble this thing and it doesn't power up, or there's sounds missing, you'll know that you didn't seat the ribbon cable properly. And you can also, if you really want to test this, you can actually, at this point, once you've put those cables in place, you can actually power on the OP-1 and just press on some keys, or turn the pots and see if you have all functionality of the OP-1. And that's one way to verify it. There might be some electronic enthusiasts that would advise against that because the board is open and you're powering it on. But that would be a good way to determine if they are connected, so you don't have to go through the whole headache of reassembling the whole thing with the screws and the keypads and everything, only to find out that you're not properly connected. But I've trusted myself, and I felt that it was properly seated before. Again, I've disassembled and reassembled electronics with ribbon cable, so I have a general feel of how they need to be assembled. But if this is your first time, maybe read up if you don't feel like it's firmly seated. But again, just use your intuition here. Okay, so I think my ribbon cables are seated. I'm doing one last little clean with my hoodie sleeve here. And if you have an air spray can, you could also use that if you want to get out any dust. I didn't do that because I try to keep my keyboard in a pretty clean environment. There's the bevel on top that I'm talking about, the black bevel. So you'll want to push that in first. So you'll go top down in and then seat the keyboard. Okay, so there it goes. So it's real straightforward. Just seat the bevel, put the keyboard back on. Okay, and now we're going to put the screws in. If this is your first time disassembling something, you might want to read up on torquing. You don't want to over torque these screws or anything that you screw in, because what can happen is you can strip that screw thread. And on all of these screws, you're going to see a little like blue or red substance, and that is a thread lock. And what that does is, after you've tightened down on the screw, it's going to, that substance inside is going to help the ends of the thread lock into the female end of the thread. So you don't need to give it too much, because if you over torque it, you can strip it. So just enough to where it's like snug, and you'll kind of feel it Once you feel it get taut, just give it one last little, like maybe if you're looking at a clock, like from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, that's about as much as you're going to tighten it there. And this goes for anything that is any mechanical stuff that you're doing. Just make sure you don't over torque things. And a lot of times, especially in automotive mechanics, you'll have torque values which are measured in Newton meters, and that's a force that you're measuring. And you'll want to use a torque wrench to actually determine and dial in what your torque is, so that way when you torque it down, you'll get a click on your wrench, and so it won't over tighten the screw or the bolt that you're screwing in. I've over torqued things many times in my life, and until you learn about it once, and then you start wondering, okay, what did I do wrong? And then you learn about torque wrenches, and you go from there. So just be mindful of that. And looking back on this video, I probably could have removed the unnecessary screwdriver bits at the top and given you more of a close view of the OP-1, but hindsight is 20/20. Here we're just doing all the screws. So a technique that I'm doing is when I put them in, I'm using my index finger to hold the screw because it's not magnetic on the bit. See how I'm holding? That was my middle finger. And I'm holding that to guide it into the female thread. And then that way you're just not losing the screw. So you'll see I'll probably do it again on this last one. I'm using my index or my middle finger. And I'm using that as a guide to hold it onto the tip of the screwdriver as I push it into the female thread bit. Okay, and then I'm moving this. Okay, and so now we're on to the last bit, which are the I wish I would have researched the name of what these things are called. The key thingamajigs. But butterfly, I mean, I guess that's on Macintosh computers, they're called, they're butterfly keyboards, and the mechanisms are, I guess, a butterfly switch or button. These are interesting. There's only one way to put them in, and you can't have them upside down, and you can't have them reversed. You have to have them in the right way. And I will show you in a second what that looks like. Okay, so here's what I'm doing here. I didn't know which way to put it in, so I'm taking off a key to see which way one of the butterfly switches were. And if you look real close, you may have to zoom in on the video. It actually looks like a smiley face, or like maybe a Space Invader. And you'll want to have the part that has two little eyes. That goes on the bottom. And so that's the correct orientation of it. Oh, here I'm making things worse by trying to pull it off to see. So hopefully you don't have to do this. It's just me learning as I go. These things are really interesting. It feels like you're going to break them. It's plastic, so it just feels like you could do one wrong thing and then you've broken a key, and then you have to figure out how to buy more keys. So I think here it's a two-part mechanism, and it acts as sort of this, like, I guess it's butterfly is the best terminology for it. So here I'm lifting up the whole thing because you had to snap it back together, not on the keyboard, but actually, yeah. Sorry, this isn't a really great instructional on how to put these back together, but you'll feel it go into place, and you can see how it's swiveling there. It's doing the butterfly mechanism. So you'll put this back on, and you'll have there's two little holes on the bottom of it that look like eyeballs. And there's like a little, it looks like a little face, and then you'll feel it, and it has four edges to snap in. And it's really, it's kind of fun to put these back in because you feel it just snaps into place, and it's really straightforward, really easy. So just make sure it's oriented right. So that's the right orientation, and make sure, there's another part that I'll show you in a second and I might run into this here, is there's tiny, tiny, tiny little pieces of plastic that are the hinges, that actually seat to the keyboard itself. And that, I think this is the reason why it's not sitting right, is I am upside down. Okay, so here I'm going to try to show it to you. So these little tiny, tiny, tiny little pieces there, those need to be closest to the keyboard. If those little tiny pieces are closer towards you, it's not going to seat properly. So that's why I was saying before that you need to have it in the right orientation, and it needs to be like not reversed or not upside down. There's only one way to get these things in. They're not reversible. But once you figure it out, it's pretty smooth sailing. Okay, here's the bigger one for the. Oh, I'm gonna go through and do the smaller squares first, and then I'll go back and do the keyboard. Yep, should be pretty straightforward to just get that in place. And okay, so this is a bit of your reverse engineering here. You're trying to figure out what I did when you're taking it apart. So okay, so this is the this is the only one that is slightly different. So you've got the square ones, which all are the same, obviously, and you've got this one, which is actually different than the keyboard key. So this is underneath one of the black keys, one of the sharp keys. Same concept applies. You want to make sure the tiny, tiny little plastic bits are closest to the keyboard. And you'll know if it doesn't snap into place, you know that it's not in the correct position. Yep, so that's where I was showing you where the tiny little bits are, that the little pieces of plastic that needs to be closest to the actual keyboard itself in order for it to snap properly. Almost done. Great. Thank you for hanging in there with me, everyone. This is the first time I've ever done a instructional tutorial, so I'm sure there's a lot to learn. I'm not really trying to make ad dollars or be sponsored. I just thought this would help everyone in the world. Who knows, maybe I'll do more of this in the future, but I just wanted to help those who may have been experiencing the same problem as I, and those who are really passionate about their OP-1 and they want to fix it themselves, because we all have the right to repair, and it's fun to get in and see how things work. And thank you, Teenage Engineering, for just making such an incredible device. Like, I can't stress enough how cool this thing is. It's completely reignited my passion for electronic music. Okay, so here I'm doing the keys. These are super, super easy. You just make sure the orientation is right and pop them in place. I think I actually messed up here. I put this is such a dummy move. I think I put, I was in such a flow that I wasn't even paying attention, and I put the, I think it's like the meter key on there, and then I put the recording key there, and I'm like, wait a second, I messed up. And then I just pop them off and put them back in the right place. I think this is where I messed up. Yeah, what did I do? You dummy, Kyle. Okay, so here I'm just pop off. There it goes, flies across the room. Pop off the other one. And it's also a little awkward to record this because you can't see on the video, but there is a big ring light above this, the table here, and there's a tripod that holds the ring light. And I'm off to stage left on this thing, and so I'm trying to like pull my arm around the tripod and make sure my head isn't banging on this like ring light. So it's not a really fun position to be in when you're trying to do this kind of work. So imagine if I ever do more of these, then I would actually have the table elevated to where I was actually standing upright or maybe sitting down, but I'll have to maybe put the ring light on the other side. I'm sure there's YouTube folks who have really figured and dialed this in. But again, this is my first time, so I'm just wanted to share this. Okay, so here, the last bits are the keys here. These are super easy. You put in the metal prongs first on either side. Just pop them into where they go, and then just push down on it, and then just push the key a few times just to make sure that it has that that butterfly key functionality once you've popped into place. And just press down on it. Really fun little device to operate on. I really liked this. It'd be fun to build one of these completely from scratch if, I don't know if Teenage Engineering would ever do that. I know they did that with some of their other modular synths where you can build them, but it would be cool to have an OP-1 that was completely in pieces and you had to build it before you could actually start playing it. So just if you're listening to Teenage Engineering, that would be a cool suggestion for a mini keyboard. Build it yourself keyboard. Okay, put all the colored knobs back on. Getting to the end here. Again, I want to thank everybody for listening. I hope this helps you. This is the moment of truth here, was getting this. As you can see, I'm very excited to finally get this repaired. I haven't had a working volume knob in probably a year now, so pot looks good. And so I actually try to start it up here and it doesn't start, which freaked me out a little bit. I thought, okay, my ribbon cable is not installed correctly, but that's not the case. It just was completely dead, so I needed to put it on the charger. So everything works fine, and I'm back up and running with my OP-1, and I'm gonna try to baby it a little bit more and take care of it in the future so I don't have to open it up again, or maybe I'll open it up just for fun. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I hope this helps. Please feel free to share it with anybody that has had a problem with their volume knob or any other knobs on their UI PCB board. And thank you very much, iFixit, for supplying me with the parts. All right, everyone, take care.